In the heart of Alberta's vast prairies, where the endless fields of golden wheat swayed under the relentless sun, lived a man named Jack Harlan. Jack was in his mid-40s, with calloused hands from years of oil rig work and a face etched with the lines of quiet determination. He wasn't a politician or a revolutionary, just an ordinary father trying to hold his family together in a world that felt increasingly divided. His wife, Maria, had passed away 5 years earlier from a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their 2 kids, Emily and young Tommy, on his own. Emily, at 17, was fiery and idealistic, dreaming of a future beyond the small town of Red Deer. Tommy, only 10, idolized his dad and spent his days kicking a soccer ball against the barn, pretending he was scoring the winning goal for Canada in the World Cup. But lately, the air in Red Deer had grown thick with tension. Whispers of Wexit, the Western exit movement, had been bubbling for years, fueled by frustrations over federal policies that seemed to favor the East while choking the life out of Western economies. Oil prices had plummeted, farms were struggling with droughts exacerbated by climate regulations from Ottawa, and taxes felt like chains binding the provinces to a distant government that didn't understand their way of life. Jack had always brushed it off as talk, but as layoffs hit the rigs and his savings dwindled, he found himself nodding along at town hall meetings. "We're the backbone of this country," he'd mutter to his neighbors over coffee at the local diner. "Why do we keep getting the short end?" The story truly began on a crisp autumn morning in October 2025, when the news broke like a thunderclap across the nation. Jack was in his kitchen, pouring a cup of black coffee, when his phone buzzed with alerts. Breaking! Western Province's major new Wexit announcement shocks Canada, the headline screamed. British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba had just declared a unified push for independence, a formal referendum to secede from Canada. It wasn't just rhetoric anymore. Premiers had signed a pact, citing economic neglect, cultural erasure, and a desire for self-determination. The announcement sent shockwaves from Vancouver to Toronto, with protests erupting in the streets and stock markets tumbling. Jack stared at his screen, his heart pounding. Emily burst into the kitchen, her eyes wide with excitement. "Dad, did you see? This could change everything. No more Ottawa telling us how to live." She was part of a youth group advocating for Wexit, seeing it as a chance for innovation and freedom. But Tommy, peeking from behind the door, looked scared. "Does this mean we're not Canadian anymore, Dad? What about my hockey team?" Jack pulled his son close, feeling the weight of uncertainty press down on him. How could he explain to a child that the country he loved might fracture, all because people like him felt unheard? As the days unfolded, the Harlan family became a microcosm of the nation's turmoil. Jack's best friend, Mike, a Saskatchewan farmer with a booming laugh and a family of his own, drove down to Red Deer to discuss the announcement. Mike was all in on Wexit. "We've been propping up the East for decades, Jack. Our oil, our grain, it's time we keep what's ours." They sat on the porch that evening, beers in hand, watching the sun dip below the horizon. But Jack hesitated. He remembered his grandfather, a World War II veteran who had fought for a united Canada. "What if this tears us apart more than it fixes?" Jack asked, his voice cracking. Mike clapped him on the shoulder. "Sometimes you gotta break to rebuild, buddy." Emily, meanwhile, threw herself into the movement. She organized rallies at her high school, painting signs that read, "West Strong" and "Freedom First." Her passion stemmed from a deep-seated frustration. She'd watched her father's back break from endless shifts, only for the family to scrape by. "We're not just resources for Ottawa," she'd argue with classmates who opposed secession. One boy, Liam, a transfer from Ontario, challenged her constantly. "This is insane, Em. Canada is bigger than provinces. We're family." Their debates turned into late-night talks, and slowly, an unexpected bond formed. Liam's family had moved west for work, but he carried the East's perspective, unity above all. Emily found herself torn, her heart softening as she saw the pain in his eyes, mirroring her own fears. The challenges mounted quickly. As the referendum approached, set for just 3 months after the announcement, divisions deepened. Protests turned violent in Calgary, with clashes between Wexit supporters and federal loyalists. Jack lost his job when his rig shut down amid economic uncertainty, investors fleeing the potential chaos. Bills piled up, and for the first time, he considered selling the family farm, a legacy passed down for generations. Tommy started having nightmares, waking up crying about the country breaking. Jack would hold him, whispering stories of resilience, but inside, doubt gnawed at him. Was Wexit a path to prosperity or a leap into the unknown? Maria's memory haunted Jack during these dark nights. She'd been the glue, always optimistic, teaching the kids that family, and by extension, country, meant sticking together through storms. One evening, Jack visited her grave at the edge of town, the wind whipping through the aspens. "What would you say, love?" he murmured. "Are we fighting for our future or running from our past?" It was there, under the stars, that he decided to dive deeper. He attended a Wexit town hall, not as a skeptic, but as a seeker. Speakers shared stories of lost jobs, forgotten communities, and dreams deferred. A young indigenous leader from Manitoba spoke of reclaiming sovereignty, blending Wexit with calls for reconciliation. An elderly woman from BC tearfully recounted how federal fishing regulations had bankrupted her family business. Jack felt a spark ignite. These weren't radicals, they were people like him, hurting and hopeful. But resolution didn't come easy. Emily's involvement led to a rift when she skipped school for a protest that turned chaotic. Police used tear gas, and she came home coughing, her eyes red. "I thought you wanted better for us," she shouted at Jack during their heated argument. "This is better. Fighting for what we believe in." Jack's temper flared, but seeing her defiance, so like Maria's, softened him. They talked through the night, sharing vulnerabilities. Emily admitted her fear of failure, of the West becoming isolated. Jack confessed his own terror of change, of failing his kids like he felt he'd failed Maria by not catching her illness sooner. Tommy provided the emotional turning point. One afternoon, he drew a picture, a maple leaf split in two, but with hands reaching across the divide. "I don't want to lose my friends in Toronto," he said, handing it to Jack. It hit like a gut punch. Jack realized Wexit wasn't just about economics, it was about identity, belonging, and the human cost of division. He reached out to Liam's family, inviting them over for dinner. Around the table, stories flowed, Eastern struggles with manufacturing decline, Western woes with resource dependency. Laughter mixed with tears as they found common ground. "Maybe we're all just Canadians trying to survive," Liam's dad said, raising a glass. As the referendum loomed, Jack became an unlikely bridge builder. He started a community group, West United, advocating for Wexit not as separation, but as renegotiation, a stronger federation or amicable independence. Emily joined him, tempering her fire with empathy. Mike, initially skeptical, saw the value in unity within division. Challenges persisted. Threats from online trolls, economic boycotts from the East, even a family cousin in Quebec disowning them. But resolutions emerged through dialogue. Jack secured a new job in renewable energy, symbolizing the West's pivot from oil to innovation. Tommy's school started exchange programs with Eastern classes, fostering understanding. The climax came on referendum night. Crowds gathered in Edmonton, the air electric with anticipation. Jack, Emily, and Tommy stood together, watching the results trickle in. It was close, heart-stoppingly so. In the end, Wexit passed by a narrow margin, but with caveats, a transitional period for negotiations, ensuring trade, travel, and ties remained. Canada wouldn't shatter overnight, it would evolve. Cheers erupted, but so did sobs, victory laced with loss. In the aftermath, the Harlans reflected on their journey. Jack remarried? No, but he found peace in purpose. Emily pursued studies in political science, dating Liam across the new border that felt more like a line on a map than a wall. Tommy grew into a young man who cherished unity, playing soccer for a Western league that still competed nationally. The West thrived, investing in green tech and agriculture, proving self-reliance could coexist with collaboration. Years later, Jack sat on that same porch, graying but content, telling his grandchildren the story. "We shocked Canada," he'd say, "but in the end, we reminded everyone that true strength comes from facing fears together. Division tests us, but heart unites us." And so, the Wexit announcement, once a shock, became a catalyst for renewal, a testament to the resilience of ordinary people in extraordinary times. It's a reminder that no matter the divides, hope endures when we choose empathy over anger, action over apathy. If this story moved you, hit that like button to show your support. It helps spread these tales of human spirit. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring narratives that dive deep into the heart of our world. What do you think? Could Wexit really happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.